welcome to MotorInc First. Today we're going to discuss another Tata car. This time it's the Tata Altroz Racer that Karthik has just finished driving. I've had a look at the car because it came to the office. So I have no opinion on it. We'll see what Karthik's opinion is.
Well, at least we've set the premise this time that Shumi knows what the car looks like.
Orange
And black.
with stripes,
Exactly.
which don't finish at the end of the bonnet.
Yeah.
And that really annoyed me for some reason.
You know what the stripes are being called?
What?
Balaji ka tika.
You.
But because they narrow down also like that,
Correct.
right? So it gives that V kind of shape to it. So, yeah, sorry. We're going to talk about the Altroz Racer.
Which is, if I'm not mistaken, a cosmetic version of the previous Altroz, right?
Kind of.
Oh, that's not a good start.
It's not a good start. Yeah. So, which is why I know, we don't want to talk about the marketing side of things, but I think we should. You've seen what Tata's done with their entire lineup, right? They were the first ones to go with dark editions.
Correct.
Worked wonders for them. Everybody's done that. They did the camo, then they did whatever. They did a whole bunch of them.
Kaziranga.
Correct. So, if you think of this as an extension of that idea, it will all make sense.
Okay.
What you've done is taken a product that was
Not doing so well.
no, they're doing fairly all right.
Okay.
They're doing well enough. The bigger cars are anyways doing fewer volumes, but like the Nexon and Punch, they're doing very well.
Okay.
So the extra variants or options just creates a bit of excitement.
Okay.
The Altroz is one of the lower performers. Thinking that it's in the same space almost like the Punch,
Right.
but it does a fraction of what the Punch does.
Yeah.
And now we are
In sales, not in actual performance.
yeah, correct. In sales.
I'm just clarifying.
Yeah, in terms of how many Punches are being sold versus how many Altrozes, it's a quarter, I think, for the Altroz or thereabouts.
Okay.
And the Altroz is now halfway through its life cycle.
Okay.
So there should have been some excitement around it now. I think this is an opportunity that they've taken to kind of give it a little bit of a bump, get it out there and let people remember that the Altroz is there. It's a good car, the basics of it. And this is what they've chosen to do with it.
Okay.
So the Racer, when you think of it that way, straight up, that it is a way for more people to participate in the Altroz without compensating or trading away the core practicality of it.
Okay.
That's what
So
it
it's
is.
not a racer.
It's definitely not a Racer.
Okay.
Okay. There are changes to it. What they've done is they've taken the turbo petrol from the Nexon.
Okay.
It was already on the Altroz, but in a lower state of tune. It had 110 horsepower. This now has 120, which is as much. Yes, agreed. And that's a good reaction. I love that. It is a good reaction because this is a product that's meant to, in a way, pander to the masses, which is why the stripes.
He's talking about you.
Yeah, because see, if you really want a sporty car, the first thing that you think about
Is a Polo.
not.
Is the Polo.
A lot of people do think that, but I don't think of the Polo as a sporty car.
What do you think of as a sporty car?
It'll sound very stupid.
No, that's okay. It has to be right. Go for it.
So I'll tell you why I'm not a fan of the Polo first. It's a great car. The engine, and everybody loves the GT-TSI. And that's the drivetrain that pulled that package.
Correct.
But the drivetrain wasn't sufficiently supported by the suspension.
Yes, absolutely
When you
right.
chuck that car, it would understeer like an arrow, like
Yeah.
straight it would go.
Correct.
It's not going to turn.
Correct.
And that was the disappointment for me on the GT-TSI. Good handling. If we have to think about something that anybody could have bought at any point, Figo.
Right.
Unbelievable.
Arre, today's cars, yeah.
Today's
Not
cars.
something that is like 50 years old.
No, so fine now. The most obvious one, it's staring at you right in the face, the i20N line.
Correct.
Because they haven't gone for performance in terms of horsepower. They've gone for the other thing that will make you go
The
faster.
chassis. Correct. And think about it. We are talking about a slightly more enthusiast-oriented car and we have to go to South Korea to find it.
And
That's where the Germans are at. I'm just saying. And I'm looking at this from the outside. Listen, I'm not involved. I have no stake in the car thing at all. I'm just looking at saying when I ask Karthik about an enthusiast car, we can't give an Indian answer. We don't even really have a Japanese answer. We certainly don't have the German answer. So it's the Hyundais who have to do it. That should tell you where we are at right now.
so the German angle, superb, because They could and should have done it. But with the MQB A0iron, basically the India products, the tune that they've got for the suspension at its base level is not right for India.
Correct.
It doesn't work for your normal use case. So that becoming sportier and firmer, I don't want that. I definitely don't want that. Tata and with the Altroz, and I want to bring this up right up top. This is a new platform. It's their newer platform. It's been around for a few years. The Punch uses the same platform. You can feel the difference in age of these cars, the Punch and the Altroz, versus the Nexon, which is using an age-old platform.
Right.
You can feel the difference in the way they drive. And this is something that you have to understand. As much as the Nexon is attractive and it's an SUV, but when you actually drive the Altroz, you'll find the better balance of comfort and suspension and how it feels.
Correct.
Right?
But the Altroz isn't an SUV, so your point is falling on deaf ears.
Well, those are your choices. And coming back to the Altroz and this platform, it's always been a great base in terms of suspension setup, how the chassis is. It was always a good car to drive.
Correct.
So what they are saying is that they haven't fiddled around with the base of the car much. What they've done is they've gone for more power. What they've done is given it a 6-speed manual gearbox instead of the 5-speed manual that was there. And with this, what we've come to understand is that the iTurbo, this engine is called the iTurbo, and that was available on the Altroz earlier, is no longer available in the 110 horsepower tune.
Across the range.
So the Altroz doesn't get that at all now. So if you want the iTurbo, it's this version which is called the iTurbo Plus.
Which is only in the Racer.
Correct, as of now.
And the other cars have what? Non-turbo petrols.
So the other petrols in the Altroz are non-turbos.
Got it.
And that engine is a duck. I mean, I remember at the first drive way back when the Altroz was launched, and when we drove that, I couldn't make sense of that engine. Back then it was really rough. Power delivery was all over the place. It wasn't smooth, and by default the recommendation then was go for the diesel. Right? Today, with the Racer, there's a very nice situation. I would say, if you're looking to buy an Altroz, I would say go for the Racer as the default recommendation.
And yeah, that means you'll have to live with the contrast bonnet and the stripes and all of that. But for the moment, you don't have a choice about it.
Hopefully, Tata won't force you to do that, because for a lot of people, that contrast color, those stripes
it's too much.
Are too much.
Yeah, it's too much.
Are too much. In which case, you'll have to live with that until they decide to offer it.
And to me, you should have the choice. Can I get a normal looking Altroz that has the turbo engine, which obviously drives well from whatever I've heard from him so far? Or I am a more extroverted personality and I don't mind the stripes and the contrast bonnet, in which case I get the Racer Edition. But the Racer Edition hosting the only good engine on the petrol side sounds like a bad idea. And therefore, I think Tata will immediately roll out 3200 variants of this car, in which will be non-striped versions with the iTurbo Plus engine.
So on this point, they did add more variants as soon as the Racer was launched. So the Racer is available in R1, R2, R3.
You know, sometimes I feel like I can predict things now.
No, they're like, we want to hear Shumi complain. So they immediately launched an Lux S or something plus, something Z, something S, because the Altroz Racer has got a few extra features. It got a larger touchscreen, it got a 360-degree camera, it got ventilated seats. So the only feature that's not been passed on to the regular Altroz, so to speak, is the ventilated seat function.
But with the engine is still not there. But the iTurbo Plus is not in these other variants.
No.
So you can get ventilated seats with the terrible petrol or the decent.
You can't get the ventilated seats also over there. You get the larger screen. You get the 360-degree camera. But you don't get the ventilated seats and you don't get this more powerful engine.
Thanks, Tata. That's so clear.
It's just a mess, because I would love to recommend this to people who just want a regular Altroz that's good. And when we're talking about the Racer, the first thing that we want to talk about in terms of performance is fuel efficiency.
Now, once again, is it making more torque at least? This iTurbo Plus?
So compared to the iTurbo, regular iTurbo, I think so. I don't remember the numbers exactly now. This is 120 and 170 Newton meters, 120 horsepower and 170 Newton meters. So it would be a bit more, but I don't have the exact numbers. The difference is, what they have said is that they've taken the engine from the Nexon, but they've tuned it for the Altroz. The gearing and all is the same. And this is a bit of a mess. I know after driving it, I checked out a little bit about what happened at Coimbatore, and it turned out there were things said that the suspension is tuned differently, gearing is different, and stuff like that. From whatever I know and whatever we spoke to Tata, they said categorically there's not any difference in terms of the mechanicals.
Okay.
Which means I even asked whether the SKU for the suspension is the same as the regular Altroz, and I was told it's the same.
So the part numbers of the suspension from normal Altrozes to the Racer are exactly the same. So
Gearbox.
no suspension tuning, clearly. Okay.
Gearbox, same.
Okay.
No difference. It's a 6-speed. It has the same ratios. What they said was the engine is tuned differently.
From the next one.
architecture is the same. There's no difference at all on that. Bore, stroke, all of that is the same.
Okay.
So it's just the tuning that's been changed, and which they would have to, given that wheels are different, weight is different, so you can calibrate things differently.
Great.
And in that, whatever they have arrived at, for the most part, is good from a general use case standpoint.
Okay.
It's really good. Like under 1500 RPM, good torque. So driving it around easily, awesome. Like
Right.
third gear, 20 kilometers an hour. You're scrubbing speed to bring it down there, but it's not like it's complaining.
Yeah, I just want to add a note here. Remember that Tata held an event at the racetrack at Coast, and a lot of people drove the car in that environment. I'm not sure that they drove it outside that environment or not. We've only driven this car on the street. You were talking about driving it around in terms of real world, and you started to talk about fuel economy, and we stopped.
Yeah, so fuel economy is a clear highlight, and which is where you start saying that this shouldn't have been called Racer. It should have been called GT, Altroz GT, because Grand Touring is basically saying you travel great distances with ease and comfort, right? And that's what this engine delivers on, because it's relaxed when it's cruising on the highway. It's at ease at 100 kilometers an hour, and we saw fuel efficiency of over 20 kilometers an hour. I mean, I don't want to say the number. The indicated fuel efficiency was about 22 something, 23,
Which is damn good.
which is really good. Yeah. And in the city, it was in the region of 13 or so, which was decent.
Yeah.
I wouldn't complain about that given the performance that it has to offer.
Right.
And the performance angle is that I want you to think of it as fast, not quick.
Okay.
Right? So they have made, it does feel like a car that will travel fast, but it's not a quick car, despite that horsepower.
So it's efficient and effective, but it's not exciting.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I'm not going to think of this as the immediate car that you'll get into and straight away feel like it's so zippy. Right? Whereas when we drove the Swift, which has less power, but the Swift, despite that going to a 3-cylinder and all of that, it felt like it was running, it would just jump off. This is not quite the same feeling.
Right.
And the claim figures for this, I've forgotten what the numbers are now for 0 to 100 or whatever. But I would love to see if it matches those numbers. And we were talking earlier about a car that I think is sporty. We spoke about the N-Line. And in this case, simplicity often is the key, the right balance, which is why I've always said, like, I enjoy the Baleno, I enjoy the Swift. It strikes away. Now, the new Swift is a different story. But the Baleno also, from a usability angle, is good.
Correct.
But it's also predictable in the way it drives.
Yeah.
Right? And the Altroz on that front, when we were talking about the suspension changes and all of that, so we didn't have to do anything because the weight has not changed much. Right? It's basically this engine, which is a bit more powerful. There's be some change in the weight because of the new equipment and stuff like that, but they have not changed the weight. What I felt in that, if I had to pursue the racer angle more, that this ends up feeling like that cosmetic job.
Okay.
Because I would have liked to have had a bit more finesse on these fronts.
Yeah.
Right? The suspension to me feels not in sync between the front and the rear. Front is more tight down, it's better, more predictive, whereas the rear is a bit more loose. So driving over those twisty roads where it's a little bit bumpy, I had to watch the rear more when I was driving. The steering, I would have liked it to be faster. This is the same steering as the standard Altroz, only they've recalibrated the EPS.
So you're basically making that point again, that this is effectively a cosmetic variant with minor changes at best. In no way can you consider this a racer from any angle.
So the suspension, again, from the GT standpoint, big bumps, potholes,
Yeah.
nails it. You don't get tossed around, it doesn't feel harsh. It just
Which you said about the CNG thing also, right? If I remember correctly. That this was the strength of this car.
So it has this oddity though, which I will point out, that which I think they could have, if they chose to go this way or that, They could have tuned it. If they wanted to go racer way, I want better balance between front to rear. If they wanted it to go GT, then they could have softened it a bit actually. Because at higher speeds on the Mumbai-Pune Expressway, when you're going, it's not the best of tarmac.
No.
But even
Concrete.
then, not the best of concrete. But even then, it feels a little jittery as you go faster. It just always does this.
That's to remind you that it's a sporty car.
Well, then that's what I'm saying. It should have done one or the other. You can't pick one somewhere.
But they're
the
picking
other
sales over everything else, no?
Correct. So this is a sales game, and I get it. It will work for more people. But I also think this is the Tata Motors that once upon a time, not too long ago, did JTP.
Correct.
Right? The Tiago and the Tigor.
Yeah, for about 2.5 seconds.
Correct. And if you remember those cars, people, I'm getting goosebumps thinking about it because I missed out on driving those cars. I didn't drive it. Back then at Zig, I think Arun Tushar went for it, and they came back gushing and raving and saying oh my God, I want to drive it more. And anybody who ever drove it said that I want to go back to that.
Yeah.
Right? So the GTP in that 2.5 seconds created a memory, created an emotion which has stuck with people.
Yeah.
The Racer is not that. The Racer is going to be that, it's a cosmetic thingy.
Look at how much he's struggling to find a word to describe this car. This is not a good sign.
Yeah, because I started off with that, right? I would like this as a normal variant of the Altroz.
Correct.
Full stop. Done.
Yeah.
The only reason to justify this as a racer right now, according to me, is that they don't have an automatic.
Oh, come on.
Yeah. Because if they had an automatic with this engine in this car, it would be a very nice combination. Let's assume that the automatic is...
See, but if you break it down like this, then you're leaving everything on the table only. You're saying, oh, I want better balance front to rear. I want the fast automatic gearbox because with this engine, it will be awesome. And I want sharper steering. Bacha kya? They have to make a whole new car for this, no?
But it's not, no?
So therefore, it is not a racer. It is a cosmetic edition. Let's call it what it is and move on. Is it... For a minute, let's consider the fact that the design is super extroverted and that won't be to everybody's taste. But if somebody is willing to ignore that, are they getting a good Altroz or not?
Yes.
I think they are, right? From whatever you've said.
That's what I said right up front. What I would want is anybody looking to buy an Altroz today. This is good value because from whatever we've understood and calculated between the iTurbo earlier, which has been discontinued, to what the iTurbo Plus is now, the premium for this engine is about 40,000-50,000 rupees for that engine and gearbox,
right?
Which is fine.
Okay.
So overall, you'll be paying at points a lakh of rupees more for the additional features and the new engine gearbox. And with that, the car is a good car. If I have to nitpick and I start talking about the practical stuff, everyday stuff, the clutch should have been better adjusted because the bite is all the way at the top, so you have to get used to it. But the clutch is light. It's a hydraulic clutch. It's light. The seating position is going to be super convenient for everyday use because you're sitting all the way high up. Even a shorty like me can look down at the dashboard.
Right.
And now with the sunroof, that'll be a catch because for taller occupants, the headroom is quite less.
But that's okay. You open the sunroof and stick right out of it. No? Then there's infinite headroom. What is the problem? Sunroofs have only one job, right? To stick humans out of. So
the sunroof's taken away that practicality a little bit. The back seat isn't the most spacious in the segment, but it's okay. It's not, I would say it's not elder friendly because getting in and out is a bit of a hassle in that. But for younger people who
I remember overhearing a conversation about the doors open wide enough, but the opening itself isn't wide enough or something like this.
So this platform, the Alpha Arc platform cars have this design aspect to them that the doors open 90 degrees.
Right.
Which means your access is very easy.
Yeah.
However, in the Altroz's case, for the rear doors, the bottom section, the design is very narrow. So trying to step in feels awkward always.
Okay.
And if somebody's older, stepping into the cabin becomes that much more difficult.
Understood.
So it will be challenging. So the practicality from a family standpoint for elders, it's not going to be convenient.
And which is fair enough, right? Elders shouldn't race.
Elders shouldn't race or get...
I'm just saying.
Okay, about taxi rides. So this car's focus that way for me becomes younger audiences and it's great for them. You have this option of this engine without taking away practicality too much. They're giving good value with it, which is good. And if I have to just think about it, it could have been more exciting for all the reasons that we discussed. The
Yeah.
steering, the suspension, the sound. This engine doesn't sound great. It has that same slightly rough kind of sound and feel to it. It's okay in terms of smoothness, but it just has the sound which is not very pleasing. Oh, and on that note, I forgot the exhaust note. They have tuned the...
I only know that there is an exhaust note angle to the Racer because 99% of all the social media I saw from the Coimbatore thing is people squatting next to the exhaust holding a mic, which is, I mean, really, guys, this is where we are at.
Though, but again, let's not take the high road, man. This is what it is. And we said about
I'm not taking the high road. I'm saying surely there is more to this car than this.
the stripes and the exhaust. These are all the things you need to attract somebody who wants a sporty car.
Is it sounding different?
Yeah, it does. It does sound.
But you said the engine doesn't sound great.
Engine doesn't sound great.
But
so
the
there's a
exhaust-
mix of two sounds.
The exhaust sounds great.
Exhaust sounds, they've tuned it like more for low to mid use. So it's when you power it, it's okay. It's not going to make too much noise, which is good. But at, part throttle, light throttle, you'll hear it more like a bassy sound, which is not too much.
Okay.
They also said they wanted to focus on usability. They didn't want it to be too wild. They designed
So it's less like the car. It says Racer, but it doesn't really go to very sporty places. It is louder exhaust, but it doesn't go to
as
too
far as
louder places.
exhausts are concerned, I'm absolutely fine with this. I don't want it to get annoying, and louder exhausts are annoying.
I'm sorry, I apologize for saying this, but I'm already losing this interest in car really, really rapidly.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Because it feels like they haven't done anything. And I know what Tata will do next. Today, there must be, 36 variants of the Altroz, and there on top is sitting this thing called the Racer, which has these things. And then tomorrow, Tata will launch another 62 variants, which will now do the extra things, the Lego set thing that the Tata likes to do.
iTurbo Plus will come to all the other variants.
iTurbo Plus will come to various variants, and you'll add ventilated seats here and 10-inch infotainment there and 8-inch there and Harman Kardon here and JBL there and whatever, and create another 64 variants, and then your website will say 104 variants, and then everybody will get confused. Then they'll write to us and say, please help us pick the variant that we want. Honestly, I'm done ranting about how many variants Tata uses.
Are you really?
I can say that. I may not do that, but I can say that for sure. And therefore, if you're thinking that this conversation is presenting to you the idea that the Altroz might be a good car, especially because the iTurbo Plus works, etc., wait a little bit. Let this Racer media thing get over with. They'll be promoting it for a while, after which they will roll out other variants which will have all of these attributes without the stripes and without the sound and without the contrast bonnet and stuff. Maybe that's the time to get an Altroz. If you really want a sporty car, it's fairly obvious right from the start. He said your first pick should be an i20 N-Line today. And your second pick will be something like a Baleno, which is able to balance being useful and being slightly sporty.
And the lovely, naturally aspirated petrol engine.
Correct. And your third option is get a Polo GT TSI, knowing that you're going to have to work on the suspension to make it truly sporty, because out of the box, it's not.
And used, of course.
Why? They're not in production anymore.
Polo to hai nahi. Polo to discontinued.
So Altoids Racer or Polo? Take your mint.
Take your... Oh wow, nice one, man. Quick. I'm gonna give you that one.
And since the Polo is not in production anymore, that's a hole in one. That is a terrible joke even by my standards, I accept.
I liked it, okay. This is one time I'm going to say I liked it, fine. Okay, coming back to the Altroz. If you have to think more from a practical standpoint, what are the things that feel good or bad?
Well, I think it'll be really easy to drive this car well, because if you're the person who likes to hog the lanes a lot, then you just align so that the road stripes are in the middle of the two stripes on your bonnet, which you can look down on because of the high driving position. As soon as you're aligned, you're exactly between two lanes and interrupting everybody in two lanes. Awesome.
See, this conversation has got really confusing, not for the usual reasons, but for the other reasons also. Because I'm just jumping between the everyday practicality side of things and the racer car side of things. Because that seating position, which I said was, okay, it's going to be useful for people who are shorter, newer drivers, all of that. But that was the thing when I first got in the car. And I thought that, why is it so high?
Yeah.
Right? If I'm going to be in a racer, I want a lower seating position. It should at least go down further.
So maybe this should have been called the Tata Altroz Rainforest Challenge Edition. Because look, it's got good suspension. It goes over bad roads really well, according to you. You get a high seating position. You can see very clearly where you are. You do get a 360-degree camera.
Yeah. We'll take it for the Rainforest Challenge. Okay. We'll send Shumi to the Rainforest Challenge with the Altroz Racer.
No chance, bro. I'm going to go spectate.
Okay. What else can we talk about with this? So I spoke about the clutch. So from the practicality standpoint, the clutch every day to get used to will take just a little bit of time. Once you do, you'll appreciate it because the clutch itself is light and the engine is torquey, so it's fine. Power delivery is not as smooth as you would think. At 2000 RPM, there is a bump, so there is a little bit of rush of excitement then, but you can work with that easily enough every day. Gear shifts, not great. Okay at best. Not smooth, can be sticky at times. When I was driving fast and I wanted to get shifts done quickly, I did get stuck. Like I just couldn't shift.
Okay.
So it got a little stuck. The gear lever, nothing fancy. So like those little moments that are missing. The interior has been done differently. There are 3 colors for this car. All of them are contrast. There's that orange that you saw. Then there's a white and there's one more. I've forgotten what color.
Green, blue, red.
Can't remember.
These are the 3 left. Pick one.
Okay, let's go with
Okay, no, we're not guessing. We'll put
I
up
don't
pictures.
know. Okay, there's a 3rd color, but
Yeah.
all contrast color and all of them have the stripes. But on the inside, that accent that you're getting is orange. That's the same. The dash has these orange accents on it.
No.
Yeah.
They didn't match the outside to the inside accent.
No.
That is so un-Tata. Because I remember seeing a Nexon that was not purple but had purple design on the inside just to remind you that it was the fearless, powerful, whatever nonsense.
Fearless.
Tata, come on, be consistent at least. If you're going to do these kind of little detail touches in the Nexon, at least bring them to the Altroz, yeah.
Don't say that word, okay?
Which one?
I'm not going to say it.
Which one?
Consistent.
Why? Tata can't be consistent? Oh, not yet, you mean. Fair enough, okay.
Because, okay, we're not going to go into that one. Coming back to the Altroz.
I love doing Tata MotorInc First for this reason only.
But on that, you have to talk about consistency, and which is why I brought up the Altroz and the Punch first. This is so much more consistent experience compared to everything else, right?
So when Tata tries to make a hatchback, they seem to nail the experience a lot more often than when they try to make SUVs. But their SUVs outsell their hatchbacks.
I would put it this way, if you think as origins, things that have been constructed more in one flow, in one clean take, those have turned out better than those that have been iterated over and over again. So if you think about the Nexon, like we said, it started off as the Vista, then it became the Nexon, then whatever updates it's got through the time, all of that, whether it's the Harrier or the Safari, which was a Land Rover at some point, and then became a Tata, and whatever changes had to be done with new engines and different architecture for suspension and all that stuff, right? Everything had to happen. Like even the technology, the car packs, is a completely different generation from when it was launched.
Sure.
So all those things have taken a toll. I mean, you know how it is. To rework something is harder than to do it from a clean slate,
absolutely.
right? Which is why the Punch and the Altroz, always when I get into them and I feel that this is a different experience, I feel more confident and I feel more reassured in them. In the way they work, in the way things feel in them. Are they straight away feeling like everything's solved, everything's taken care of? No, I still think that things can be better. We've complained about seating position on the Nexon. Is it better on the Altroz? 100%.
Got it.
Is it spot on? No, like we said, the seating position should be
so let me ask you this. Fair enough. When I've seen the Safari and the Harrier around for a long time, when does Tata need to roll out a new platform in the natural life cycle of these products? When is a new platform due?
The platform is being worked on right now because see, they have to develop the EV versions, and the EV versions are here now. So those are the next generation cars that we're going to see as Harrier EV will come.
And that will represent a completely new platform?
Yes.
Not the H5X extended, etc.
No, this will be a new take. This will be a new platform that will use that.
When is it due?
We're going to see the Curve next, which will be
all new
and
all electric.
It will also have an ICE version of it. There'll be the Curve ICE, but first they're going to come with the Curve EV.
Okay.
Which will be, and it's going to be a new name in the Tata family.
Curve.
Yeah. So Curve is going to be the first one. The Harrier is also going to come. If I'm not wrong, it will come in this financial year. So anytime till March.
Okay.
That's going to happen for the Harrier EV. You can assume the Safari, and then there'll be also the Sierra. Sierra will also happen. So Sierra nameplate will come back, which will be exciting. And
until you drive it.
Well,
then fingers crossed.
If it's an EV, things are a bit safer, still not perfect. And we are, strangely enough, we thought that was a smoother line for Tata Motors products. But recently we've heard quite a few issues, even with those, with the EVs.
Right.
And I just think that's not a great direction. That
No,
should be
and
fixed.
I'm telling you this, I don't monitor cars too closely, but I do happen to be around when the conversations in the office are happening, when Karthik and the team discuss vehicles going on, and I'm not hearing consistently good Tata Motors stories. I'm hearing that there are challenges, there are niggles, there are issues, there are small things that are increasingly adding up to an experience that is not as flawless, smooth, and premium oriented as it needs to be. And I'm talking about the big cars and the small cars. And I am worried because I'm hearing this across products. They are a very successful company right now. But if these are the stories that you're hearing, then the success will not last. And I would rather see Tata and Mahindra, for example, succeed than have issues with this, which is why I think they need to raise the standard internally and say it is not acceptable for us to have a car that is in any way inferior to what an Indian perceives as Japanese quality or increasingly Korean quality or German engineering. You cannot be behind on any of these three things. And to me, this is not a price game, and it's not going to be for very long. We are going to value the experience a lot more than the price very, very rapidly. But changing cars that kind of rapidly is next to impossible. So if you don't start now, you'll be left behind then. So honestly, I'm telling you, as much as I do not monitor this segment, I am really worried.
The point that people keep making is that, it's okay, they'll catch up, it's going to happen. Just think about it this way. We had this conversation, I think, when we spoke about the BYD Seal. BYD started off in the early 2000s, which means after Tata. We can argue on every front that they would have had support from the government locally. China has a very strong policy for that. Yes, but the point is, these are your rivals.
Yeah.
If you have to take them on, and today, let's be clear, we've spoken about this on the Royal Enfield front.
Yeah.
Royal Enfield has to be successful in India if they want to be successful globally, because this is where they sell the most right now. So economies of scale come from that. So if Tata Motors wants to be competitive globally, they have to be competitive in India, which means they have to be world class for the world and for India.
Yeah. And if you start drawing a line between what is world class and what is acceptable for Indians, you're losing a battle, you just don't realize it yet.
And making these excuses for ourselves to defend a company that's Indian, I get the emotion of it, but you're not doing anyone a favor when you do that.
Yeah.
If you're going to keep doing that, we're going to stay in this little bubble, and one day it will burst. And it's not going to be good for anybody then.
Yeah. Eventually, one day you will realize that you want a better product. And then you'll realize that Indian companies haven't evolved enough to be able to offer you that better product. And then you will be torn between your patriotic feelings and the idea of, I just need a better car. And if that leads you away from the Indian brands, there's nothing the Indian brands can do about it, except regret the fact that they didn't pull up their socks early enough and be in a better place later. That's it. That's all there is to it.
And when we were talking about the Swift, you said there's not going to be a Swift Sport, which is the one brand that you would have bet on to do a proper sport job. It would have been Tata.
Yeah.
Right?
They tried it, and they tried it very briefly for whatever reason, but they were willing to experiment with it back then.
Yeah.
When the JTP days happened, and I know it only lasted 3 months, whatever. Today is the right time to do all of this. And to me, this half-hearted racer thing is honestly, I'm telling you, I'm convinced that this is the first of X number of variants to come that will solve the issue that you're having, which is I like the idea of this car, but I hate the stripes and I hate the contrast. Okay, it's going to be solved in the next 2 months when Tata launches the next 26 variants of this car. I don't think this is a great idea though.
Because what this should do is create a subset. It should create a avenue for a new audience.
It should create a substance-oriented differentiation in the product rather than a cosmetic-oriented, let's get some sales kind of thing. I mean, how narrow is your view to say, I'll repaint this car and I'll push the sales a little bit until we can do something else? Which is what it sounds like to me.
Like, think about it, right? Like when we talk about the N line, what does the N line mean to us? Nothing. We didn't know what an N line was, but we knew what an N was.
Correct.
And we came to know about the N first, and which is why then we respected the N line.
And because the N line is not a cosmetic version, it's not the AMG kit. And it's not the M Sport kit. It didn't add a spoiler and a chin spoiler and nonsense, right? They did change the suspension, which does change the character of that car when you drive it. It makes you feel a different thing. Imagine if Hyundai hadn't changed the suspension and you get the i20 or you get the N-line body kit, which makes the i20 look sportier. We would have told you point blank saying, if you like the spoiler thing, okay, spend that money. Otherwise, save your money and just get the base car because it's just as good a car with all of those features. So why the hell would you spend extra money on it?
Right.
The difference is coming from the fact that there is a substance, there is a feeling which is changed. And if the Racer edition doesn't change that, the Racer name is a throwaway thing.
So yeah, you reminded me about all the things that I haven't spoken about because they're about design, and that just kind of skips my mind because I always think about it this way: whether a car looks good or not, a bike looks good or not, doesn't matter because if you enjoy driving or riding it, job done. You're going to put up with all the rest of it.
Yeah.
So in this case, it's got all the blacked out logos and the alloy wheels are the same design, tire sizes are the same. It has this molding on the side sill. I didn't like it because I could see the seam on it very clearly.
So poorly finished.
It's put on properly, but I don't know why that rubber bead is visible.
Okay.
It's a consistent thing again, but I don't see why it should have been there.
Okay.
It doesn't compromise ground clearance, so again, practicality is the same. It does have a new spoiler, which is longer, and they say that it was developed using CAD and the wind tunnel as well for better stability and reduced drag.
Because it goes so much faster now with 10 extra bhp. Okay, good to know.
And yeah, so the focus they said for the spoiler also was to smoothen out the airflow so that it's quieter at high speeds while giving better downforce and reducing.
In the process of which it gives you great economy.
It does give good economy. I am impressed about that. Imagine I've gone to the Racer and come away saying that, hey, this is a great all-round Altroz for everyday use. And like you said, wait for the version which is not the Racer.
Correct.
With that engine, with that gearbox. So you save a little bit of money for ditching the stripes, the side skirt, the
Correct.
spoiler, everything, and you get a great practical Altroz.
Yeah.
And if you're looking, actually forget the diesel also. Generally, if you're going to travel a lot, if you have this kind of fuel efficiency,
you'll be fine with the
you're
petrol.
good, yeah.
Yeah.
It's fine.
Yeah.
I'd happily live with it. And you have the additional,
Is there a Racer version of the Altroz EV also?
Altroz EV aaya kahan hai?
Oh, aaya nahi abhi tak. What is the car that they keep charging outside the office? That blue car that charges, that also looks like an Altroz from the front only.
That's the Tiago.
That's
That's the Tiago.
Why isn't there an Altroz EV?
That's a great question because the Altroz EV was the first of the EVs on the new architecture that was showcased, and it was at Geneva, but then they just switched plans and started with the Nexon. So the Altroz EV has just been...
So Tiago EV is there, Nexon EV is there, Panchev is there, but Altroz EV is not there. Does that make sense to you?
in a way.
Okay.
Because they've gone with SUVs as the main attack, which is the Nexon and the Punch.
Yeah.
And the Tiago and Tigor are a little bit more on the mass side, right? Which could be for fleet operators and stuff like that, which is where it fits in. So they've taken the because you have better margins with SUVs.
Yeah.
You have more ability to price with SUVs. They've used that. As it is, like we said, that the Altroz hasn't been doing the wow numbers.
Right.
If you compare it even to the Baleno and all, that does 15, 16,000, whatever it is, something in that range. And this is doing 4, 5, 6,000, right? So it's a different scale altogether.
Sure.
Doing it on the Punch makes a lot of sense, which is also doing some 15, 16,000 units a month. So
it's bichara in the middle. It's caught in the middle.
Yeah, it's kind of got... And I get also why. It's a great car, but it's not as practical as the Baleno. It's youthful, but it's... Now, this Racer is not going to... it's going to increase its appeal, but it's not going to give it that bump up where it gets elite status like the GT TSI did.
Right.
Because the GT TSI had so much polish to it.
Yeah.
Right? Or where the N-line, where it might have a small set of fans, but those are hardcore fans because they'll be the serious guys saying, this suspension is serious suspension, right? For somebody who wants to make that step up. And now they've offered, you have the option of the automatic with that turbo petrol. You have a manual as well. So you have both the options as well to play with over there.
Got it.
And the price difference is not significant. It's not that much. So if somebody's looking at the Racer, can easily look at the i20 N-line as well.
Okay. So if you really want a Racer, don't buy the Tata.
The only thing to be added is it has only one drive mode, sports.
Racer.
Yeah. Oh, there is one more thing. Again, about the smaller details. So it has that 7-inch digital instrument cluster for the driver. It's got this ring kind of layout. It's got a speedo readout, digital, and it's got a analog style, like basically a sweeping thing which reads out the speed. And you have the rev counter on the side, which is a just like a display, those whatever you want to call it, the segmented LED style, right? I would have liked that outer ring to have been RPMs. So smaller things like that will just hit home and get the point across. Like when I was driving fast and I wanted to see the revs, I had to like look to the side over
Understood.
there.
Yeah.
So just the smaller details could have been nailed together to make this a more immersive experience.
Right.
I think that just bringing those things together, keeps this from far from being a racer. It could have far more easily been a GT. It could and should have. It would have made great sense. But I don't know why they didn't go for that. As of now, the good thing about this is, of course, you get a great Altroz the day they decide to drop the stripes and the contrast stuff, and drop the price along with that. Enthusiasts, if you've been looking at this excitedly, you will still enjoy it because the performance is good. Is it as good as the numbers suggest or what its look suggests? That's not going to be the case. So just temper expectations on that front. But from a value equation and a usability standpoint, it is good.
Safety. You cannot talk about Tata without telling us how many stars it got.
Stars. This is the same. This is 5 stars.
Shall I go into the quick summary now?
Yeah.
Oh, you're not going to like this. Tata has a new version of the Altroz called the Racer, which we don't think you should buy just yet. Most of you should just wait for Tata to roll out the next series of variants that feature the same drivetrain so that you can get all the benefits that the Racer actually gets without all the silliness that the Racer now involves. Okay, what I mean by the silliness is you can see that the design is pretty extroverted. You've got this orange color, you've got a white color, and you've got a third color. You've got a contrast black bonnet with stripes on it and all of this. And I'm not convinced that this is everybody's cup of tea, especially because there's a larger spoiler and there's a fake side skirt in it, etc., etc.
Might be our age talking.
Right? However, on the flip side, there are actual positives to this car, which does make the Altroz an attractive buy once these color schemes are removed and you have other variants in which you can enjoy those benefits, which are not here yet. So for example, this is the same engine as the Nexon, but it is tuned up 10 bhp from the previous Altroz, and it's now called the iTurbo Plus. This engine's extra horsepower, extra torque does make a small dent in your driving experience. The surprise will be the fuel economy. This is a really fuel efficient engine when combined with this 6-speed manual on this car.
Yeah.
It's not a great sounding engine. They've done a little bit of exhaust work to make it sound a little bit better, but honestly, it's not like everybody's going to rise up to their feet and clap for you as you pass by. However, this is fundamentally a good driving experience, but not necessarily what you'd call a sporty driving experience. Kartik asks that you temper your expectations a little bit. It is a quick car. You can feel like it goes fast, but it's not going to feel zippy or racy or sporty. Kartik goes so far as to say maybe they should have called it the Altroz GT instead of the Racer, suggesting the idea that this car would be nice to travel long distances on at a fairly swift clip, rather than think about it as a racer, which is in this context a slightly more immature way to look at this car. On the interior, you've got all the usual advantages of the Altroz, including the high driving position, which is odd for a racer but very useful in everyday life. You've got a 7-inch touchscreen display. You've got custom...
the touchscreen is 10. Sorry.
So what is the 7 inches? The driver's display.
Driver's
Okay.
display.
You've got a 10-inch infotainment screen with the usual stuff on it. You've got a 7-inch display in front of the driver, which shows you tachometer and speedo, etc. Kartik wished that they'd laid out the graphics oriented more towards being a sporty car, which would have highlighted the idea that this is a racer instead of what Tata has actually done.
Oi, I have to interrupt.
Yeah.
Tata, this instrument cluster is readable, not the Nexons, which despite being larger feels useless. This works. Sorry.
It also has all the attendant problems of the Altroz. So for example, this platform allows the doors to open 90 degrees at the back, which is awesome. It means elders will find a really large opening to enter the car with. However, the same platform also narrows the space where the feet need to go into the car from, so it makes the job harder. The rear seats aren't the greatest in the world. They are not something you'll sing about, but they're okay, reasonably okay. This is a car with excellent suspension for relatively inferior and poor roads, except that it's a little bit jerky and jumpy when you're on bumpy concrete, for example. If Tata could have tuned that out further, this car would have improved in experience. And I'm saying improved both from the side of Tata could have chosen to make it even sportier, sort of like the i20 N-Line, or chosen to make it a lot more comfortable and actually done the GT thing.
Yeah.
Problem is they've done neither. This is the same car as before with a slightly more powerful engine. And Tata says stuff about aerodynamic tuning for the spoiler, etc., etc. But the fundamental thing is the Altroz was a decent car to buy with a terrible petrol engine without the turbo. Now the turbo petrol engine feels even better to drive than before and returns great fuel economy. Unfortunately, it comes wearing this fairly juvenile set of styling updates, which you don't have a choice about. If this is to your taste, please go ahead and explore the Racer. If it's not to your taste, just wait a little bit, because there should be a variant that doesn't have all of this extroverted styling that will come to you. The price has gone up about 40-50,000 rupees in this bargain, which is okay. If you really want a sporty car, try and stretch to the i20 N-Line, which is not a faster N-Line by engine, but it is a faster N-Line by chassis. It is a much better tuned chassis. If you want a great balance of practicality and sportiness, maybe the Maruti Suzuki Baleno is a better pick than the Altroz Racer, is what I'm understanding from you. Overall, this is the picture of the Tata Altroz Racer. I am not convinced that this is a great idea for you to bring home. If you like this kind of design, you should. But remember, you're buying a reasonably quick and efficient car, but you're not buying a really sporty or evocative car. Did I miss anything?
No.
Well, that's it.
That's done. Well done, man. That was great.
Yeah, I listen when you talk, man.
Thank you.
Despite all the appearances.
All right.
So what comes next from Tata? I mean, I'm only asking this question because Bajaj and Tata, who together I club together and call them Batata, they seem to be doing everything, something or the other every other week, man. It's like, you remember there was a sequence where we went another weekend, another Pulsar. And now,
Hey, Tata's not done much as of now. Okay.
How can you say that? They add at least 3 variants per car per week. How can you say that they do
We are not
anything?
driving them. But
That's only because you're lazy.
I like the
That's
Batata.
only because you're lazy. If you were a hardcore car testing journalist, you would have tested all 104 variants of the Nexon, and you'd be preparing your schedule to test all 68 variants of the Altroz as they roll
But the Batata theme works because them clubbed together, they have the same idea of iterativeness.
Yeah.
Take this, make slight deviation, make deviation here, create something here. Oh my God.
Yeah, and it's really hard to keep track of. And I'm saying, if our job is to keep track of it and it feels so challenging, I wonder how you customers are doing this.
I think it becomes really simple when you go to the showroom. You say कि कौन सा available है the salesperson tells you कि ये available है
और ये 6 महीने में मिलेगा.
हाँ, ये 6 महीने में मिलेगा. You make your decision on that basis. Full stop. 104 हो या 200. Finally it comes down to that. Can I take it home, please?
Yeah.
So yeah, it's a different world that way.
So next, what do we see from Tata? The electrics?
Yes, the next offering from Tata will be the Curve EV, which will be followed with the Curve Ice, which should be happening in the next couple of months.
Great names, man. Curvy and Curvice.
Curvice?
Yeah, it's like an Italian version of Curve ICE. Curvice. Go ahead and use it. I won't ask you to give me royalties on this.
Okay, so yeah, that's going to happen. That's in the next couple of months from the time that we've recorded this. I don't know when you see this, the race a bit, but yeah, that'll be some time.
And then there'll be a break, and then we'll get the Harrier electric and stuff.
We'll get the Curve.
Yeah, after these 2 curves.
Yeah, so then will be the Harrier, if I'm not wrong. I don't remember offhand right now, but
2 curves back to back is an S curve, right? I'm just saying.
Okay, I'm going to give this one to you guys. Okay, this is all you.
2 curves back to back could also be a chicane.
It depends on how. Oh, forget it. I'm not getting into this.
I almost had him there. Almost.
Done then.
Thank you so much for watching. If you have any further questions about the Tata, the Altroz, or the Racer, or anything else, just leave us a comment. We'll try and get back to you. MotorInc First is available here on YouTube, but it is also available audio only on Spotify, Apple, Google, which is being replaced by YouTube Music very shortly, as well as Amazon if you'd like to listen to it there. We have stuff coming your way which will allow you to access our content in a different way altogether. Hopefully, you'll hear about it very, very soon. A few of you will get to experience it very, very soon. But we'll hold that announcement for later. And unlike naming it Racer, we're really going to push it. Thank you so much for watching.